Why is unhappiness real even among Christians? This is a question that is very difficult to answer. So let me just base my answer on my experience. Firstly, I think I cannot really say that I was happy growing up. We were very, very poor. There was no assurance that we have food to eat the next day. I was always jealous of other kids for their things. I didn't have a lot of playtime because I needed to finish all my assignments before dark since we did not have electricity at home. I always felt sort of embarrassed borrowing clothes and shoes for school ceremonies like Linggo ng Wika or UN or commencement exercises, graduations. Almost every day I felt self-pity during snack time or recess at school because it's either I have no baon or very little baon. Looking back, it is really unfair that a 6-year-old boy already feels these kinds of negative sentiments, but I guess that's just how life progressed for me. Now, 30 years later, which is now, I ask myself, am I already happy? Am I happy now? Honestly, I must admit that the sentiments I had as a child have not completely vanished. This is embarrassing because my financial situation is radically different from when I was a child. I can now buy clothes and eat the food that I need. Well, I'm not saying that I'm not happy. I'm just saying that there is still unhappiness in me. And I think this is the paradox that all of us experience even as growing Christians. So the question is this: why is there still unhappiness? Well, maybe it is this. We still have unhappiness because we have so many desires in life. And we are pursuing happiness from many different things. We have anchored our happiness on so many conditions. We may be happy about 3 things, but we are still unhappy about 6 things. We may be content about our progress in 8 different things, but we still feel dissatisfied about 2 things. So the problem is that while we are happy with some things, we are also unhappy about other things. The irony is that because we are pursuing a lot of happiness, we end up being unhappy. We maybe if we have simple desires, then the likeness of being happy is greater. I remember Jesus Christ saying something about this in Matthew chapter 6 in the Sermon of the Mount. He said, "Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow, or they do not reap, or they do not store away in barns, yet the Heavenly Father feeds them." And definitely we are more valuable than them. Maybe birds are content because they are not worried about many things. Their pursuit of happiness is much less than and less complicated than us humans because we as human beings have numerous desires in life. But I think the greatest source of unhappiness is the poor exchange between two pursuits of happiness. As a task-oriented person, I take delight in having accomplished a lot in a single day. But this may be at the expense of having less time with my kids. So for us, this means that we may be happy about our work, but we feel a deep sense of guilt about our parental responsibility. And yes, you've heard it right. I said guilt. It is not just unhappiness, it is guilt. Because we know deep in our hearts that family should come first. We get happiness on one pursuit while being unhappy because of the sacrifices that we have to make for the pursuit of one happiness. Unfortunately, most times we have to make numerous sacrifices for the sake of one single pursuit. So we might be pursuing happiness in our career or in our ministry, but that is at the expense of feeling guilt and unhappiness because we are missing out a lot on family life. And this means that the feeling of guilt is even worse because we know that family is really important. So at the end of the day, the question really is it really worth it? What are we doing to pursue happiness? And what are we sacrificing to pursue happiness? what satisfaction are we pursuing in other things that cannot be provided by what we already have? For example, our family. Do we truly have happiness when we also feel guilt? So these are just some, I think, further questions that we have to reflect upon in our pursuit of happiness.